happy Monday to you. I'm back. It's Jenny of Jenny Stitches and thank you for joining me today on my channel. So today's video is all about corduroy. It's high time I got around to filming this fabric focus video for you, so without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, what is corduroy? Well, corduroy is a woven fabric, and you are very likely to have come across it in ready-to-wear clothing. It's most often seen as trousers, skirts, jackets, that kind of thing. It's a lovely sturdy fabric. It's most often made from 100% cotton, and it's characterised by the ribs, which you can see in the fabric here. So it's got vertical ribs running down. Now, corduroy has a pile, but we will touch upon that later, and that is created by, it's a bit like a carpet. It's made in little loops in the weaving process, which are then cut, which give you these nice fine little hairs, which give it a soft, furry feel. So, corduroy is classed by the width of the ribs on the material. So, the number of ribs per inch. So on this one, this is a jumbo cord, we've got around 4 to 5, 4.5 ribs within an inch. And then that would then be referred to as 4.5 wale. So I don't know where the wale comes into it, where the word actually originates from, but that's how it's classified. So I stock at the moment 3 different weights of corduroy. The wider the ribs, the lower the number, obviously, that you get within the inch, and that generally tends to be a heavier, more durable fabric. The lighter the fabric, the higher the number of ribs, because it's much finer. So, we'll get started with, this is 21 wale baby cord. So, and it's called baby cord because it's so fine and soft. It's ideal for baby clothes, and it's also ideal for lightweight garments like nice skirts or blouses, shirt dresses, that kind of thing. It's deliciously soft, so you can't stop stroking it. So I've got a few prints in stock at the moment, which I'll show you now. This is tulips. Now you can see, because it's a lighter weight fabric, it's got a really nice drape and movement. But with having that sort of fluffy texture, it still retains a lot of warmth, and it's a nice feel to wear. So that's probably why cord is so popular over the autumn, winter, spring months, just because of the extra warmth and kind of snuggliness that it provides. So that's the tulips print. Very apt for spring on the way. And here we've got another floral. Can't quite remember what this one was called, but anyway. So I will hold it up so you can see the print a little better there. And again, lovely drape, really sort of pretty floral print on a peach background. I really like this. Trying very hard not to in the process of getting these out, not to snaffle a length for myself, because I've got enough to do. It's one of the perils of my job. Okay, so slightly different to a floral. This is also a baby cord. This is a grey camouflage. There we go. See that up a little bit close. I got this one because I thought it was really different. Obviously non-floral, which is harder than you would think to buy, and quite modern. I thought it was quite contemporary. It doesn't just have to be for boys. I've actually had this in mind for kind of like a little mini skirt. I thought it would be cute with a nice belt. So that's the camouflage. See that there? I have a plain baby cord. This is mustard. You can see that there, and you can see just how fine those ribs are. I'm trying not to dip that in my cup of tea, as usual. Okay, just a couple more prints left. You tend to get the more interesting prints on the finer weight cords. The heavier ones, they're not as often printed. You do come across them, but not as often. This is Glitter Sprig. So it's a lovely deep wine colour. I did have this in stock in a petrol, but it's all gone now. It went really quickly. And it has little golden, sparkly, glittery leaf design on it. It's very, very pretty. Very nice. Very rich. So that's ideal for your sort of wintry mix. And finally, the last print is this really cool Scandi Florals. You can see that's quite a bold design. So you can see that there. You can see that next to me for size. And again, this is just lovely and soft. Really sort of retro kind of. It's just got a different feel to it than some of the florals, so that really caught my eye. So that's baby cord. The prints tend to come and go throughout the year. You know, depending on what my suppliers have. I've always got my eye out for something unusual on baby cord. It's really, really versatile. Okay, so the second width that I stock is 8 whale cord, and I will just go and grab some rolls. Okay, so trying not to flatten everything here. This is the 8 whale cord. Now if I hold it up like that, I don't really think you can see a huge amount. I'm going to lift that forward so you can see the ribs are much more defined on this fabric. However, it's still got a good drape. So I would say this is probably the most versatile of all the weights that I stock, because it's still fine enough to be able to use it for a dress. It's really good for trousers, for skirts, for pinafores in particular. A lot of beginners like to use corduroy to make something like the Tilly and the Buttons Cleo pinafore dress. I'll pop a picture of that in if I can find one. Or any other sort of simple type of dress. So it's a really versatile weight that can be used in lots of different ways. And that is the wine colourway. And we've also got, this is Royal Purple, and it's a really rich royal kind of purple. So to me that is a classic kind of Cadbury purple. It's basically my favourite colour. And finally at the moment, please don't fall over, I have bottle green. You might have seen this. I will pop a picture in on a skirt that I've made. That was the bottle green 8 whale cord. What I noticed when I worked with this fabric, it's nice and easy to sew with, it doesn't go anywhere. But after I pre-washed it, it really softened up even further than it is on the bolt, and it kind of fluffed up a little bit, which was really lovely. So yeah, once it's had a pre-wash, it's even nicer. So that's the 8 whale. And finally, the last weight that I have to show you is a jumbo cord. Now, jumbo cord tends to be around 4 to 4.5 to 5 whales per inch, ribs per inch. So this is a grey colourway, a very sort of useful neutral. And the thing that you will notice with this is, although it still has good drape, it is firmer. It's not as drapey as the finer ones, which is logical when you think about it. There you go. I'll just show you that a little bit closer so you can see. You can really see the width of those ribs now. I think that would be lovely over like a jacket. What's the Friday Pattern Company jacket called? I'm going to pop a picture in here for you of the pattern that I've got in mind for that one. And this is the same one but in navy. For the grey and the navy, there's slightly less of these available because these are actually last year's stock, and they are actually slightly cheaper than the newer ones that have come in now. Fabric, like everything, the wholesale prices have gone up over the last year, and yeah, it's difficult, but unfortunate. But that's the way of it at the moment, isn't it? Everything's kind of creeping up in price. Now the next two that I'm going to show you are the 4.5 whale washed cards. This is the ochre colourway, and there we go, you can see that up close. It is exceptionally soft and beautiful. I'm just trying to remember if this was organic. Possibly, I will confirm. But yeah, these are the newer fabrics this year, so they are slightly more expensive, but they're absolutely beautiful. I wouldn't call this like a classic mustard. I'd say this is more of like a golden, sunshiny yellow than a mustardy mustard. That being said, I think it depends on the pot of mustard that you open. I'd say that's probably more like a Coleman's mustard. Less of the French. It's not a Dijon. And finally, this is the pink. In the same, this is the 4.5 whale washed, and this is the pink colourway. So lovely and soft. I think it would be nice actually to use one of these to make something like a jean jacket, you know, kind of like a denim jacket style. That could be really nice for winter. Maybe with like a little contrast collar. There's an idea. So what else to tell you about working with corduroy? I've actually written down a few tips. So when you're cutting out, you really want to pay attention to making sure that the ribs are straight. So if you've got a grain line on your pattern, you can make sure that you line that up down the ribs. It pays to take time to really double check before you cut out, because then once you have cut it out and you sew it up, it can be obviously off grain because of the vertical lines. So they're almost there as a guide really to making sure that you're definitely cutting your fabric on grain. So I would take advantage of those. Before you pre-wash your fabric, which you always should, and in particular with these cords, because all of mine are 100% cotton, they will be prone to a little bit of shrinkage. So you need to get that out of the way in the wash before you make your garment and then shrink your newly sewn garment. Trust me, it's worth the extra effort. One bit of feedback I would have is that when you cut corduroy with all those little cut ends, it can fluff up like crazy. If I've been cutting it in the shop, and even now after filming this video, there's bits everywhere. So it's fine once it's sewn, but on the actual cutting it tends to be a bit explosive and it can fray. So if you have an overlocker or you have a zigzag stitch on your machine, which you will, I would finish the raw edges of the piece before you wash it, even if it's just in some old thread, and then you're not going to put it through your washing machine and find that it's like crumbled loads or you've got loads of fluff everywhere. It's just as well to just kind of contain those edges before you wash. And the other very important thing to note when you're working with cord is that it has what we call a nap. So a nap is basically where the fibres in the fabric have a direction. So again, I will go back to talking about carpets, you know, when you have a lovely plain coloured carpet and you can run your hand or you can run the hoover along it, Mrs. Hinch style, and get your hoover lines. It's exactly like that. So the fibres are all naturally leaning in one direction, and if you cut your pattern pieces in different directions, say if you've got two fronts and you cut one with the fibres going that way and one with the fibres going that way, you're going to have a visible difference because the light will be falling differently on them. So the important thing, unless you actually want that as a design feature, which is absolutely fine, the important thing to bear in mind is to make sure that you keep all of the nap going in the same direction, and you can work that out by running your hand along the piece. Like there, I can feel that the fibres are going downwards because there's no resistance against my hand, but when I brush up I can feel it, and I'm not sure if that's going to show up on camera, but you can see the difference. So definitely keep everything going in the same direction, and that is nap. It's the same thing that you'll get with velvet and sometimes sequins as well. And you'll often find on the back of your pattern, particularly if you're using a big 4 pattern, it will say whether the cutting layout is for fabrics with nap, without nap, or without nap. If the cutting layout and the fabric requirements are with nap, then you don't need to buy any additional fabric. If it's without nap, you may want to buy 1/2 metre to 1 metre more to make sure that you accommodate for having to lay out your pieces slightly differently. Yeah, so that's the very important technical detail there. And the last thing that I wrote down was just making sure with your seam finishes, in particular with the chunky cards, obviously it's quite a bulky material once you've got the sort of fluffy front involved. Your seam allowances can end up getting quite chunky. I would say to grade them where you can, so that's where you cut them at sort of differing lengths to make sure that they sit together better so you don't get a big chunk. Or you can maybe sort of go with like a bound finish on them to finish them off neatly. That's another good tip. Ironing wise, try not to press the plate of your iron too hard on the actual fibres because you can just crush the pile. I would recommend using a press cloth. Obviously, I would always test a small piece, like a sample piece in advance of actually getting sewing. But yeah, I'd be really careful when pressing it. Don't apply too much pressure. Maybe just try to steam it gently and steam through a cloth, which, as you know, for me is always a tea towel. Okay, so I hope that gives you a good overview of corduroy. Please let me know if you've got any more questions down below. I've tried to kind of cover all bases there. Needles wise, I would suggest just a regular 70-10 needle, just a standard point. You don't need a ball point or anything like that for the baby cards and the 8 wale. When you're into the jumbo cards, you may need to go up. It's worth experimenting. I'd probably say maybe an 80 would do the trick for those. But yeah, cord is actually really easy to work with. It's a pleasure to work with, to be honest, because it is just a woven cotton at the end of the day. So let me know what you think. If you've got any more thoughts to add, please do join in the comments below. But it's nice to see you, and thank you very much for joining in. In another note, do you like my jumper? It's a Tilly and the Buttons Billy sweater that I've just finished sewing recently, and yeah, I'm very happy with it. So you might see that across my social media over the next few days because I keep putting it back on. I hope you're all good. I will catch you soon, and thank you very much for watching today. If you did like this video, please do like and subscribe, and please do consider following me on social media to get more sewing content and lovely fabrics. So take care, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.